Hey gang, today I wanted to go through a TLDR of how to play Space Marine 2 with some extra little nugs of info to help you out. I do not have the attention span to watch a dozen build guides on every single thing, so I thought I'd just kind of collate everything into one why use lot word when few words do trick type video. So if you're brand new to Space Marine 2, there has been a couple sales on Steam recently and it was added to the Xbox Game Pass. So if you are new to this game, I think this will also be pretty helpful from a kind of casual standpoint. So first up, when you enter the game, it will push you through the campaign. This is basically your tutorial. They will teach you the basic things on that, but it does miss a lot of things out, and I will give some little extra tips that the game just never tells you towards the end of the video. So I'm also going to only really be talking about PvE stuff. I don't really play PvP. I do not interact with it very much, so sorry about that. With the campaign, it is a nice story as well. You do get quite a lot of lore on the Warhammer side, so if you are a Warhammer person rather than a shooting person, then the campaign is really nice for that. So first up, we're going to go through the classes. When you load into PvE, it will prompt you to pick a class. You can switch these at any time in the armoring hall, which is here. If you're in the battle barge, you can just press tab and it will come up with this little menu and you can teleport to the armoring hall. So this is the armoring hall and you can pick your loadouts and you can pick your classes. What class you play basically boils down to what have you enjoyed playing in other shooting games. So you have tactical, you have his Auspex scanner, which is pretty OP in this game. It makes enemies more vulnerable in an area and it just sort of melts everything and lets your team melt everything. It's the best ability in the game, essentially. Playstyle wise, TAC is basically a regular shooty shooter with not a lot of melee. It has access to most of the weapons in primary, a couple of secondaries, and 2 melees. So this one's really good if you like doing lots of shooting, and he can also commit arson. Then the second class is Assault. He has a jump pack, so you can jump up and then smash down with your melee. He cannot take a primary gun, he can take an array of secondaries, and he has a pretty good selection of melee weapons as well. He cannot commit arson, but this is a very fun class because of the jump pack. You can just kind of get out of swarms if you are being swarmed, and it is the Mega Bonk Melee 3000 class. It is very no think, only W, unbind your S key and just jump around with your jetpack. Next up is Vanguard. He has a grapnel launcher. This is just a grapple launcher that pulls you to the enemies, obviously. The playstyle is kind of mid. It's just like default army guy plane style. It's kind of boring. He's not specialized to shooting or melee. He has like the most generic loadout of weapons that you can pick from. It's kind of fun because of the grapple zoomies, but otherwise not really super useful for anything, and he cannot commit arson. Bulwark has chapter banner. This is also very useful. People generally, if they're making a team comp, take a tactical and a bulwark, and then the third player can kind of do whatever, probably assault, but chapter banner is very useful. Also pretty OP. It restores the armor to squad members in range of it, and with the right perks, it can restore all of the health that they have lost as well. Very useful. So he is a melee support type character. He cannot take a main weapon like assault. He has a small selection of pistols, and he can take a lot of melee options, which we love. I'm very melee based, so I'm very biased towards melee things. He cannot commit arson, but he is very satisfying to play and very good for low health clutch moments because of his chapter banner. And if you take something that is not a thunder hammer, you get his lovely shield, which can do some really nice shield bashing moves and combo thingies, and that's pretty good. Next up is Sniper, this little guy. So he has a camo cloak, which makes you invisible for a time, and this gives you a bonus to your damage as well if you kind of sneak up behind someone and melee them, or you can also get the bonus damage from your ranged attack as well. I think that depends on the perks though. For the playstyle, it's a classic sniper, long range shooting with some good melee weapons. So it has very like sniper based guns and just one melee weapon. To be fair, I said it had good melee weapons. It has one, but if you get the Power Gladius or the new heroic combat knife, you're pretty much Gucci, and you can play this pretty main as a melee instead of as a sniper, just because those heroic combat knives are just so good at the moment. Otherwise, he's kind of useless like Vanguard, because the main class ability only affects you. Assault also doesn't give jetpacks to the team and doesn't affect the team in its class ability, but you do have that mobility to jump into a fight and stagger things, whereas the sniper only really benefits itself, and its perks aren't super useful in the team either. He cannot commit arson. Next class is Heavy. He has an Iron Halo, which creates a powerful barrier blocking all range damage. So this is like a bubble shield that you can hide behind for a little bit. He is basically the big gun boy with stompy stomps. If you want a big gun as big as your character and you don't want to melee anything ever, then this is the class. There are no melee options for this. You just have a giant foot stomp when you do click the melee button. He can commit arson. He does have a flamethrower. He has some other pretty good massive weapons as well. The last class is the Techmarine. It has a servo gun, which is the gun on his backpack, which means that when you click for a gun strike, this will do it for you, so you don't get animation locked and can continue to shoot other things. However, you cannot trigger this if you are in an animation like an execute already. Techmarine can also use sentry turrets found on maps to help support the team. Playstyle wise, Techmarine's pretty squishy. It is a crowd control support class, but he is kind of OP just because of the sentry guns being OP, which makes up for the squish, and he's also kind of fast, and the non-animation locked gun strikes also kind of make up for the squish as well. He's pretty fun to play, but not super useful unless the turrets are spawning in good spots. Moving on to leveling. In terms of leveling, basically you earn XP and level up by doing things. The only complication is the prestige things. So every 25 levels you can increase your prestige. This resets your level and perks to 0, but you get a perma prestige perk. So there are 4 prestige levels. I'll just show you on my sniper since I don't really have any prestige classes. There are 4 prestige levels, with the max being prestige 4. You get 25 levels per prestige. So every time you reach prestige, you have to pay some gold, and you get all of these perks reset, and you gain one of these like big lovely perma perks. You can pay to reset these after you have all of them. As far as I'm aware, I haven't got that far, but I would assume that you can, otherwise that's a bit mean. For this reason, if you're leveling with friends, then only get the team perks, which are these ones, because they affect the whole team. I would save up your coins for weapons and the prestige upgrades, because they're kind of expensive. If you're leveling with pugs, then you should probably buy perks. I recommend checking out First Orgasman for build guides, but again, you don't really need a class build until you reach prestige 4. The weapons perks are more important while you're leveling, however, since they don't reset as you prestige, so it is worth having a look for those as well. In terms of the types of weapons, not all classes have access to every weapon, but this is a kind of quick rundown of the options. Every class has a sort of 3-slot thing here with a primary weapon, a secondary weapon, and a melee. For the primary, this is your main gun. There is 16 of these in the game, and the choice generally comes down to preference in gun feel and playstyle. For example, I like manually clicking to shoot rather than holding for auto machine gun type vibes. So on tactical and Techmarine, this is a auto bolt rifle. It's a sort of general pew pew gun. It's fine, full auto, better at close range. The bolt rifle is for tactical and Techmarine. Again, pew pew gun, full auto if you like that kind of thing. It has pretty decent stats as well. The heavy bolt rifle is for tactical, heavy, and Techmarine. Is a pew pew gun, feels nice, does gun stuff, full auto, mid range, pretty decent. The stalker bolt rifle is tactical and sniper. It's a lovely gun. I love this gun. 10 out of 10 for sniper, semi-auto, really good at sniping. It has a very satisfying scope as well. The bolt carbine is tactical, Vanguard, and sniper. It looks very silly. It exists. It's kind of mid-range. The worst type of auto for me, it's just a straight up gun, so not enjoying that. But if that's what you like, then have a go with that. Next up is the plasma incinerator. This is for tactical and Techmarine. This is a kind of pew-pew with mid-range, but you can hold the trigger for charged shots, which are pretty powerful and good, especially for headshots. You can pretty much one-shot headshots with this, which is nice. Next is the melter rifle. This is basically a shotgun with fire. This can be taken by tactical and Vanguard. This is a pretty nice gun. Now, fire blaster. This is the arson gun. We love arson. We have never been convicted for arson, but we love arson. This is your flamethrower. This can be taken by tactical to commit mass arson in the map, and the fire damage is OP. Generally, if there's fire damage as an option in this game, you should take it. It is the best damage that you can do. Next is the instigator bolt carbine. This can be taken by Vanguard and sniper. It's fine. Would probably recommend it. The scope does not feel super nice for me though, but that's just a personal opinion. Then the Oculus bolt carbine can be taken by a Vanguard or a Techmarine, another gun. Mid-range with big mags, feels like an Uzi from GTA San Andreas, so if you kind of like that kind of vibe, then go for this. Then for the sniper weapons, we have the bolt sniper rifle. This is a classic sniper gun, semi-auto, insane for headshot damage, but it does feel a bit slow and clunky. It takes a bit of practice because of this, and it isn't really worth taking if you are bad at aiming for heads. The las fusil is kind of similar. It needs to charge up to fire, which is kind of annoying and slow, but it does do really good damage. It's kind of the same advice as the bolt sniper rifle. With practice, this is a pretty good gun. Then for the heavy guns, we have a heavy bolter. This is a full auto machine gun, and it gets faster the more you hold the trigger. It's very satisfying to just mow things down. Then you have the heavy plasma incinerator. This is again a high-powered plasma gun where you can charge up for those really big shots, but this is more of like a cannon than the regular plasma incinerator just because it's the heavy one. And then obviously you have the giant version of the arson machine. This is the pyre cannon. It is a commit mass mega arson gun. It's great. We love this. As with the other flamethrower, it is close range, but it's very useful. And the fire damage, again, absolute peak. Then having a look at the secondary weapons. So secondaries are a pistol or a sidearm, just a small thing to switch to if you need it. Generally, you switch to this automatically if you run out of ammo on your main weapon, or if you have a perk that allows you to regen ammo on your main weapon by killing things with your secondary weapon. So first up, we have a bolt pistol. This is like the default pistol. This can be taken by every single class: tactical, assault, Vanguard, Bulwark, sniper, heavy, Techmarine. It is semi-auto. It's fine. I would recommend the heavy bolt pistol: tactical, assault, Vanguard, Bulwark, sniper, heavy, Techmarine. Again, just everything can take it. Semi-auto, mid-range, really good damage. I normally default to one of these for my secondary. It's very reliable and it's very good damage as well. And you have, because of the damage, I find that you do have a better chance of getting those double gun strikes, which you get by going from a gun strike into an execute, and you can just do the second gun strike instead of the execute if you're too far away to perform the execute in a convenient way. Next is the plasma pistol. Like the other plasma guns, you can charge this up for a bigger shot. It can pew-pew pretty fast, it's mid-range, and it does have that little keychain underneath that kind of dangles around. It doesn't do anything, it's just aesthetic, it's just kind of cute. This can be taken by tactical, assault, bulwark, heavy, and Techmarine. Next up is the Inferno pistol. This can be taken by the assault, Vanguard, bulwark, sniper, heavy, Techmarine classes. It's basically the shotgun, the multi-melter, or the melter rifle, but in a pistol form. It's pretty powerful, it's pretty good. Would recommend if you like fire. Last up is for the secondaries is the Neo Volkite pistol. This is is for Assault, Vanguard, and Techmarine. Now imagine the small fire pistol from before, the Infernal Pistol, but instead of a fire shotgun, it's just a laser. Really nice. The last type of weapon you can take is a melee weapon, so this is your swords, your hammers, and your fists, and everything an angry boy needs for punching those walls. First on the list is a chainsword. This can be taken by Tactical, Assault, Vanguard, and Bulwark. It's like if you had a chainsaw, but it looks like a sword. It's pretty decent. It is pretty good for cleave as well. That's what this bar is here. This is single target, and this is cleave. Next is the Thunder Hammer. This can be taken by the Assault or Bulwark classes. It has massive cleave, it's a big hammer, many bonks, feels glorious, but it is kind of slow, but it does make up for that with the massive AoE, which is glorious. Next is the Power Fist. This can be taken by Assault and Bulwark again. This is a big punch, but it has a pretty good range with a force push wave type thing as well. It's pretty middle of the road, but slightly leaned towards cleave. The Power Sword is likewise Assault and Bulwark, but Techmarine can also take it. It's a sword, it doesn't really have a preference for single target or cleave. It's fairly middle of the road. I don't think this is included in many builds if you watch any build guides, just because it is pretty mid and there are better melee weapons. Speaking of, the Power Axe can be taken by the Assault, Vanguard, Bulwark, and Techmarine. We love the Power Axe. The Power Axe is glorious. You will enjoy it. It's very fun to use. It is pretty middle of the road on the single to cleave, but it leans towards single target and it can infinitely chain attacks, which we love. The next we have is for Tactical, Vanguard, Sniper, and Techmarine is the Combat Knife. The Combat Knife is very useful, especially the heroic ones. The Power Gladius is amazing, and the new heroic weapon in patch 12 is also absolutely beautiful from what we have seen. It's better for single targets than cleave, and it's the only melee that Sniper can take. Then the last melee weapon we have is the Omnissiah Axe. Only the Techmarine can take this. It's not amazing. It does have really good cleave and an aesthetic choo-choo train charge, but otherwise it's kind of slow and clunky. It doesn't really fit with the need for speed with someone as squishy as the Techmarine is though. So if you play Techmarine, I would recommend the Power Axe. So for melee, you also have different categories within each weapon, which is fencing, block, and balance. It can be seen here on the different things, so block, fencing, balance. These matter for the playstyle you want or vibe best with, and each weapon also has slightly different combos for light, heavy, and riposte things. These can be seen on the pause menu if you are in a game. So what do these defense types mean? Balance is just like default parry windows, nothing special. You get gun strikes on perfect parries and stagger enemies in like a 4-meter radius around you. And on a perfect parry, these enemies also take extra damage for a little bit and flash yellow. For fencing type defense weapons, you have an increased parry window and decreases the stagger circle to 2 meters rather than the 4 and a bit. It's the same as balance otherwise, where parrying a Minoris will kill it and regain you 1 armor, and a perfect parry will get you a gun strike. The block type weapon is the most interesting and fun in my opinion. It's kind of more risky if you're unsure of what you're doing, and I suck at this game, so I'm terrible with block weapons, but I think they're the most like bang for your buck. It does decrease the parry window, and you block instead of parry, and you can't gun strike. The perfect block does absorb all incoming damage, and you get a stack of adrenaline surge. This buff is under your health bar, and it stacks up to 3 times. This basically gives you a decrease in damage taken from ranged damage. This buff can also be spent, so if you have this buff and melee an enemy, it will make an explosion with a stagger radius of like 4 meters, which is also an interrupt, so it's useful for enemies you can't reach, but within that 4-meter range trying to call a horde. Depending on the stacks, you have extra damage on melee, but the buff does get used when you do melee. Similar to parry upon a block, enemies flashing yellow have a defense penalty for a few seconds. In my opinion, block is the most useful but hardest to use, so if you prefer a more Souls-like style, then maybe go fencing. If you're more casual, then balance, and block if you want to get good and show off to your friends. For equipment, we have grenades and stuff. So your default loadout grenade is a frag grenade. This has a big AoE and a stagger. Then you have a crack grenade you can pick up on maps. This is a small AoE. It does magnetize to enemies. It does a lot more damage, but that AoE is not as big. It's not super useful compared to the other grenades. The shot grenade has good continuous AoE and does slow enemies that are within that area. And this is the recommended sort of best grenade choice. If you see one on the map, you should probably switch out your frags or cracks for these when you see them. The last grenade type is the melter bomb. This is like a tiny nuke. It's very good if you get one or have one, especially with an equipment regen perk that includes melters. Other things you can pick up on maps are Medicae stims. These are your health boosts. You have an armor boost, which adds armor to your armor stack. A Guardian Relic is so if you get down, you can pick yourself up. And data slates are little interactable lore things. These don't get picked up into inventory, they're just little lore nuggets that you can pick up. There is also Gene Seed, but I'll talk about that later. The types of enemies you will see. So you have Minoris, which are the little horde enemies. These are mostly melee or low damage range. These are very squishy and just kind of take up space. Majoris are the slightly bigger enemies that can block, interrupt, and call for horde. Then you have Extremists. These are the mini-boss enemies. These have more unique attacks and abilities rather than just plain attack, block, dodge. They're more fun to fight and a bit more challenging. Terminus enemies are bosses. These will have a big health bar in the middle of the screen, big boss vibes with cool abilities, very fun to play. Then the two types of enemies, there is Chaos and there are Tyranids. Chaos are mostly ranged units, and they do have the Chaos spawn that everyone except me hates, and you can sprint through the humans to make them puff into clouds of blood, which is very satisfying. The Tyranids are the little bugs. These are mostly melee and easier to counter as they tend to swarm rather than stay at range and have more unique units with more diverse attacks. People find these easier to play against and more fun since it's more quantity over quality rather than the Chaos units, which tend to spawn less units but have more high damage units. In terms of controls, the default controls are decent. Left click shoot, right click melee, hold them down for heavy attacks. Middle mouse is the special for the weapon. You get, for example, you zoom in as a sniper or you go into heavy stance as heavy. WASD basic. The only changes I have is execute on Q and parry/block on E, and then interact and grenades are on my side mouse buttons. But I think the default controls are fine and you don't really need to change anything. There's nothing super special to remember in terms of controls except checking your combos for the weapons, which you can see on the pause menu in a mission. If you're on PC, then increase your FOV slider for expanded viewing field so you can see enemies approaching from various directions around you a bit easier. For health and armor, this is your health bar. If the end of your health bar is a rune like this, then you can go down and get picked up. If it is a skull like this, it means you have been mortally wounded and will die and need to wait to respawn if you run out of health again. Mortal wounds can be removed if you heal up to full and it will return back to that rune. Armor is very important. It's these little tabs underneath your health. You want to maintain or regen this as much as possible with executes and gun strikes. If you have white on your health bar, then this is contested HP. You can win this health back and make it red by dealing damage and doing an execution, which will more or less instantly restore contested health. So into actually playing the game, you have a couple of mission types and I do have a recommendation on the order to go through these. So in the armoring hall, in the classes menu, you have these things called trials. These are basically little mini games to teach you the main things about that class. I recommend doing these before jumping into operations so you have somewhat of a practice with the class before you jump in. Don't worry about failing them or getting all A's, as you can just ignore these, but they are good for little tutorials. So after you've done the campaign, this is the other half to the campaign. These are PvE operations. This is pretty much the most played part of the game, up to 3-player multiplayer, fun maps, and bosses. This has 6 difficulty levels, and each difficulty is based on the previous difficulty, so I'm not going to repeat too much. Minimal has generous equipment drops. It takes 2 downs to inflict a mortal wound, and the enemies don't really do much. It's recommended to start here with level 1 because the enemies above sort of substantial Ruthless will probably one-shot you if you are level 1. Next is average. There is less equipment drops than minimal, the enemies are slightly harder, and it still takes 2 downs to inflict a mortal wounds, and stims do less healing. This is recommended for level 5 characters. Substantial has less equipment drops again, the enemies are even harder, and it takes 1 down instead of 2 to inflict a mortal wound. The stims are even more less effective, and this is recommended for level 10. So Ruthless is where you start to get a little more challenged in the game. It has a longer respawn timer. I think this is where it gets set to 300 seconds or 5 minutes, and the enemies will one-shot you if you aren't careful. It takes 1 down to inflict a mortal wound, and stims are less effective even more, and the ammo caches are no longer infinite. This is recommended for level 15 characters. So on lethal, it still has that long respawn time, the enemies deal more damage, and they are smarter. They have more health, and it takes 1 down to inflict a mortal wound. The stims are even less effective, and it's recommended to only play this when you get to level 25. Absolute is pretty much endgame content. 3 extremist enemies can spawn together, it takes 1 down to inflict a mortal wound, and killing Majoris or higher decreases the squad spawn timers. The supply drops are reduced, and the ammo caches are even more limited. This is recommended for Prestige 4 level 25. Each time you prestige and get reset to level 1, you should probably start again at minimal, but if you prestige once, I would probably start at average the second time, and then once I prestige twice, I would probably start at substantial, and then at prestige 4, I would probably just do absolute or lethal. Not listed on here is a kind of PvE players challenge mode, which is true solo. So to do this, basically you go into these settings up here, you turn on private, and you turn off bots. So by doing this, you can run operations solo. I think this is a pretty good way to practice since you don't have a team to crutch, and doing this on absolute is considered peak endgame content. If you still find this easy because you've gotten really good at this, there are also mods like Absolute Plus where you can have multiple boss spawns on various operation maps. The next PvE mode is Siege. This is just a horde mode essentially, so it has normal and it has hard. Every 5 waves you switch map and it switches which enemies you're against, so if you do the first 5 waves against Tyranids, then your second 5 waves will be against Chaos and vice versa. This is really fun, and I think the maximum anyone has got to is wave 48, which I think is my friend Hazeman or some Russians who did it. I am unsure, but this is a really fun mode and it's pretty good for leveling. Although in patch 12 they did nerf the leveling, so just doing the first 5 waves in hard will not be as rewarding as it was before. The next PvE thing is stratagems. You have weekly and daily operations with special affixes. It has 2 difficulties again, like Siege, normal and hard. It gives special currency also needed to buy heroic weapons and pretty armor transmogs. And they have a little timer and a date on when they are reset. Next PvE is the campaign. Obviously, you can replay the missions if you want, and if you got to the point in the campaign where you can start doing operations, then you can come back here and finish the campaign. PvP is here. You can play as a Hellbrute and Chaos factions and various things. It's unranked, so matches can feel a bit biased sometimes, and just get better in it, so I don't play PvP, but you can play PvP if you want. So last up is the extra stuff. So in the game, you might come across some crates. These are smashable wooden crates that drop supplies, and you can make this in your favor depending on when you smash them. If you're at low health, the crates are more likely to drop stims. At low armor, they're more likely to drop armor boosts. If you have a mortal wound, the crate is more likely to drop a relic, and if you have none of the above or low ammo, then it can drop ammo boxes. The difficulty level you're playing on does affect these probabilities, but it is worth remembering. In operations, you can also find a gene seed item. This must be brought to the end of the mission, and if the carrier gets downed, then it is destroyed. This takes the same slot as a guardian relic, so it's not super annoying to carry, and this gives a lot of bonus XP at the end of the mission. The next little thing is that gun strikes use your pistol, but they don't use ammo. So if you are out of ammo and you get a perfect parry, then you can still gun strike. And if your gun strike puts an enemy in executable, then you can perform a second gun strike instead of executing if you are at range. I hope this helped. Like and sub etc. I paint minis on Twitch and I play Space Marine 2 badly. Let me know if I missed anything or if you found anything super useful. See ya!